Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we had a very solid second round of playoffs against the Chicago Blackhawks, who actually won the President's Trophy with 62 wins. And we managed to beat them in a pretty hard-fought series for the most part. It was a lot of close games, which made it a little bit scary, but we managed to get it done. You can see Game 1, we won 3-2. Game 2, we won 3-0 on the road, so we took the first two games on the road, which is great. We then lost in overtime, and at that point, I was a little bit worried that it might be the home ice trend. Well, we managed to respond with a nice 3-2 victory of our own again. So at that point, we were up 3-1, then they won 2-1, so I was a little bit worried that maybe they would start to claw back into the series. However, we did win Game 6 by a score of 4-3 to get ourselves to this next round. So a very good performance from our team. We managed to hold guys like Beshkov to only one goal in the series and also probably a couple assists. Bedard was pretty good for the Blackhawks, but he wasn't able to get his team that victory. And now we're going to be taking on Calgary in the conference finals, which is an interesting matchup. Because the Calgary Flames didn't really have the best regular season. As you can see, they finished 43, 32, and 7. Yet they've been having a pretty good playoffs up to this point in time. Now, what's interesting about their team is they were actually a solid defensive team during the regular season, but they weren't the best offensive team, and that's probably helped them out in terms of this playoff simulation maybe a bit more. As you can see, they were the 8th seed, we were the 2nd seed, but they scored 3.2 goals for per game, which is not too great, but they gave up 3.02, which is really not that bad when you compare it to some of the other teams in the division. It is technically the second worst in the Western Conference that is in the playoff spot, but in general, I think it wasn't really that bad across the entire league. Like, if we go to the entire league goals against per game, I believe it looks like they were just outside of, like, maybe in the mid-range in terms of goals against. So they weren't really that bad defensively. They also had not good power play, but they had a pretty damn good penalty kill, which was number 1 in the league. So they are a good defensive team. They could play good 5-on-5. Well, maybe not as good 5-on-5, but they could definitely kill penalties. And I think they've been also doing that so far a little bit in the playoffs, not as much maybe, but definitely still simulating well in the postseason as well with that type of thing. But if we go here, actually let's go Western Conference. You can see they're 8-5 so far this postseason. They scored the exact same amount of goals as us, but they've played only one more game than us, so that's why their goals for per game is a little bit low. But their goals against per game, 2.69, very solid for the playoffs. Ours is 2.08. Their power play percentage is worse than ours, which is not really surprising because we're more of an offensive team. And their penalty kill percentage is actually worse than ours in the postseason. So I don't know if that's going to really mean anything going into this, but they definitely aren't doing as good on the penalty kill as they were during the regular season. But they definitely still have that skill level where they could actually play good on the PK as well. So going to be an interesting matchup. Let's take a look at their lines again just in case you guys forgot, and then we will get into you guys' comments and see what you guys have to say afterwards. So the Calgary Flames, this is, I believe, the first time we've ever played them in the playoffs, which is kind of interesting too. You can see they have a lot of solid players, not really any, like, I would say, superstar players. Like, I mean, Koshrain's probably pretty close to it, same with Obergauer. But these guys obviously are still young. Like, Obergauer's only 21. He was the first overall pick a few years ago. So the Flames are just starting to become a good team, it seems like. But they do have some really solid depth, I'd say, in their lineup. And the big one that's kind of wasn't expecting to see when I was looking at the lines last episode was Jamison Bogosian, our former top 6 center, 3rd round pick of ours. He's been in Calgary, I guess, the last few years after he left Carolina. So actually, it's kind of interesting because he signed with Carolina in the offseason after we let him go. He had 55 points in 63 games, and then they traded him away to Calgary. And I remember them missing the playoffs that year because he had a really bad plus-minus. The year afterwards, you could see minus 26. Definitely didn't play in the playoffs. Then he was minus 2 one year, 35 points. So his offensive production's kind of dropping off a little bit. Then he only played 3 games in 2039, so I guess they used him as a depth forward or something like that. And in this season, 46 points, so a good response of a year for Jamison Bogosian. And then in his playoff numbers, you can see he's only played 1 year in the playoffs with the Calgary Flames, which is this year, and he's got 8 points in 13 games. So definitely got to contain our old former top 6 center. Kind of interesting that he's there now. And then from a defensive standpoint, they actually have a pretty solid defensive core, I would say. Like, Perek and Renz are not too bad. That second pairing's okay. And then the top 6 pairing's not really that bad either. It's a little bit weak with Bearable, but it's maybe one of the stronger defensive cores in terms of depth that we've seen. Because we have seen defensive cores with, like, really good top 2, but afterwards it's nothing else. This team at least has, like, a legit top 4, I think. Yeah, legit top 4 for the most part. And then Dirksen's a legit top 6 defenseman. Bearable's more of a depth defender, but it's still pretty solid. And then from a goaltending perspective, you can see they have a solid 1-2 punch with Jorgensen, who has been very good so far this playoffs and also during the regular season. During the regular season, 9-15. Playoffs, he's got a 9-26. So we definitely have to beat a hot goaltender. And then there's also Gale Reed as the backup. And then their depth options aren't really anything too crazy, but they're a forward and a defenseman. So I hope that we can beat this Flames team, get ourselves to a Stanley Cup Finals again, because that would be awesome. I didn't even realize that we had 51 wins this season, because now I'm thinking of the Arena 51 as our arena. It's just kind of funny that the Aliens would get 51 wins of all numbers on the season. So with that said, let's get in your guys' comments now and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into this conference finals matchup and see if we can find ourselves in that Stanley Cup Finals again. So the first comment is from Sour Taku, who says, you're either going to beat them in 7 games or get swept. And yeah, I kind of feel like that could be the case, because technically, based on their record, the Flames are a bit of a cheese team. I wouldn't say they're a full-on cheese team based on how their overalls are on in terms of their forward group, defensive group, goaltending group, but definitely the record suggests that they're a cheese team, even though they technically look better on paper, in my opinion. And the last and final comment is from Garage TV, who says, so far so good. After this playoff season, I think it's just time to go through the players you have is a good idea. So he wants me to go through the players we have on our roster after this season is done. I don't know exactly what you mean. Do you want me to take a look at their player faces and stuff like that? Or what do you mean exactly in terms of the offseason and all that? Because obviously we're just going to keep running this same team pretty much as possible all the way till the end, until guys start to retire and all that. So, because we only have like another 8 seasons, I think, or so left of this, so it's not a lot of time to win another Stanley Cup. We might as well try and maintain this roster as much as possible and continue to try and make the playoffs as much as possible, which I think should be pretty much doable, because most of the guys on this team are locked up past this upcoming offseason, especially like the main core guys like Ristolainen, Kohlers, and Stowitz. These guys should be here hypothetically till they start to retire, which is fantastic. Also, the crazy thing is we are getting to that point where these guys could start retiring soon too, which is a bit scary. Like Stowitz is 34 years old, which is kind of scary. He could retire at 36. I wouldn't be too surprised. He could also play to like 38 maybe too, but he's definitely close to retirement. Arena is also close to retirement. Risto probably would retire, I think, before the end of the series as well, just because there's 8 years left or so. Kohlers might be one of these guys that retired in the last few years of this franchise mode, and then the rest of them probably won't retire just because they're a little bit too young. So I definitely think we'll lose a lot of the core guys, though, that have been here for a long time, like these 4 guys especially. Kohlers, Ristolainen, Norena, and Stowitz. I could see them all retiring before the series ends. Everybody else I don't think will, unless they retire at like 33, which could happen, but I don't think it's going to happen potentially as well. So I think we are good to get into this conference finals matchup. Like I said, I think we definitely have a good chance to get ourselves to the Stanley Cup Finals, but also we could get cheesed. So that's why Saturn Chalka said it's either going to go to 4 games, or we're going to get swept, or we're going to win in 7 games. So I definitely could see that, but if it doesn't happen like that, I could also obviously see that scenario too. So with that said, I think we're ready to get into game number 1, see if we could get ourselves to another Stanley Cup Finals. It would be against either Carolina or Columbus if we do get there, which is interesting. So it's kind of funny that Bogosian's other team in Carolina, who he was with and got dealt from in his first season, is a team that he could potentially be playing in a Stanley Cup Finals if we do lose this conference finals matchup. So I don't know if there's any former players in Carolina or Columbus, but it will be interesting if we do get there. So let's get to game number 1. We have home ice advantage, of course. Let's see if we could take it in, take these first 2 home games, and then who knows what we could do on the road, because we've been a good road team so far, so it would be nice to continue that trend. First period, game number 1. 1-0 to Flames. Not a terrible start. It's not a bad scenario to be down only 1-0. Shots are even, so we are hanging around in this game, which is good. Not good that we necessarily gave up a goal in the first period, but at least we do have good teams that we could have good offense. We could respond in the second easily, because I have been trailing in some of these games before, but most of the time it seems like we were leading after 1 in the last round, so that's a bit worrisome. But if we could have a good second period here, it could be just forgotten about. So can we find a way to tie this game up in the second after a Zane Perret goal? Let's see what happens. No, we cannot. Still 1-0 Flames, despite us outshoot them 27-16. So I am a bit worried that their goaltender continues to play good, because he's been one of the best players on that team for sure this playoff run. And he's got like that 925 save percentage or whatever. And so far, he's playing pretty damn good here in game one. Definitely holding his team with that lead because we are outplaying them. We're just not able to find a way to score a goal so far. So we need our offense to find a way to get one in the third period, and we need to make sure that they don't get any more goals, because if they get any more goals, it's going to be even tougher to come back in this one. So let's see what happens in this third period, see if we can tie this game up at all. Come on, boys. I know we have offense in us. Bearable makes it 2-0, so it's literally the 76 overall guy that just scored, and Zane Parekh scores. All three of their goals are coming from defenders. Not an ideal first game here. Not an ideal first game. Our offense is nowhere in... Well, it is there, I guess, because we are getting shots, but we just haven't been able to find ways to score goals. And all three of their goals are going to be literally from defenders, and we get shut out in game one. Final shots are 37-30, but we lose 3-0. Not ideal. Not a terrible defensive effort, I would say, because 3 goals against is not really that bad, but the fact we could not score a single goal is not good. All those goals that they scored were literally 1-assist goals as well. We did maybe get into a penalty trouble a little bit in game one, because Kolar's Delisle took a penalty, we had Ristolainen take a penalty, there was a fight between Malak and Sherov, and Stelwitz took a hooking penalty. And then we were also, they actually took a decent amount of penalties too. They actually had a double minor penalty in that second period, but we didn't score on it. So we were 0 for 4 on the power play, or 0 for 3 on the power play actually, because one's a fight. So we need to be a bit better in terms of our power play percentage as well. But I wouldn't say that's a terrible effort, but it definitely needs to find a way to score more goals, because we definitely have the offense to do it. But Calgary's a good defensive team, so we need to not play into their hands a bit. But Jorgensen first star, Parekh second star, and Bearable the third star. So, like I said, not a bad first game, especially in terms of defense and goaltending, but the offense needs to find a way to get goals on Jorgensen. Because now that they stole one of our home games, we need to steal one of their home games, basically, at this rate. So, do I change the team up at all after one game? Probably not. Probably not. That was our first loss since this OT loss game, and then before that was since the 21st. So we've been on still a very good pace right now as of late, but if we do lose this game, I think I might have to make some adjustments, because we'd have to win 2 games on the road to get back into the series. So let's keep the team the same for game 2, and if we have another bad offensive effort where we don't score any goals or something like that, we will make some adjustments for the next game. But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, so let's keep the team the same, see what we can do here in game number 2. Come on, boys. Let's get a response, and then obviously we won't have to make any adjustments. First period, game 2. 1-0 Calgary. We have not scored in 4 periods to start this series, which is not great. They do score another power play goal, so their power play has been all of a sudden doing good against our PK. Zane Parek got 3 goals in 2 games. I don't know how their defenders are scoring all their goals, but they're finding ways to win because of that, which is not great. We are outshooting 10-8, so once again, our offense is showing up in terms of chances, but we just cannot find a way to get past Jorgensen. Jorgensen's definitely the difference maker right now in the series early on, and then obviously after that, it's like Zane Parekh and that defensive core right now. So we definitely need to find a way to score a goal in the second period, because if we go 5 straight periods to start this series without scoring a goal, I feel like it's going to be one of those series we get swept in where we barely score a single goal. And I would not be surprised if that ends up being the outcome if we do lose this game as well. So can we find a way to respond in the second period? We have to find our offense and find our legs. If we don't find it, we're going to be in a major problem here going forward. Second period. 2-0 Flames. Oh my goodness. Bichar? Is Bichar a defenseman too? I feel like he was a forward though. Yeah, I think he's a forward. Anyways, we have not scored a goal to start this series in 5 straight periods, despite outshooting them in every single period, I feel like, at this point. Shots are 22-20 in favor of us. We're down by 2 goals going into the third. This is definitely not on Gianta either, or our defense, I think. This is just our offense taking, like, way too many nights off. Like, I don't think I've ever seen the top line be this quiet to start a series, because usually the top line's always killing it, but so far, 5 periods without a goal, which is not great, especially on a goaltender like Jorgensen, who's only an 85. It's not like he's like a 95 overall goaltender, but let's see what happens in this third period, see if we can find a way to get back into this game, or are we going to lose both of our home games and not score a single goal? Because that'd be kind of insane. Swift makes it 3-0. God damn, man. Not a good start to this conference finals at all. Not a good start, especially in the offensive low. Person makes it 4-0. That's a defenseman too, I think. So literally, like, so much of their goals have been coming from the back end too, which is very confusing. Are we literally going to get shut out in back-to-back games? And the answer is yes. We have not scored a goal in 2 straight games. Oh my god. Why is the worst time for our offense to not show up here? Because our offense was so good going into this round, but now it's just all of a sudden like, I don't really want to score at all. We outshot them 35-31, so yeah, their goaltender is definitely the difference maker, and their defensive play has been very evident here early on. We're definitely still in the series because we could win both games in Calgary, but the fact we haven't scored a goal in 2 straight games has me a bit on the concern side of things. And then in the plus-minus department, Kim was pretty bad in plus-minus, same with Peterson, Hennessy, Norena. And then obviously, like I said, the goaltending, I wouldn't put this up to Gianta, but I definitely think our offense needs to be way better than this, of course. So Jorgensen first star again, Bashar second star, Perek the third star. So Zane Perek with back-to-back games with a game-winning goal too, which is not ideal. So very poor start for our team. We need to find now a way to win both games in Calgary if we want to get back into this. But I feel like we are going to get cheese potentially here in this conference finals based on this so far. And Columbus and Carolina are tied at 1, so that's Eastern Conference matchup still a little bit up in the air. But right now, we are in a very bad spot. We have no offense going. We're going into Calgary down 0-2 without scoring a single goal. We need our offense to go. So I'm not going to change up the top line because the top line to me is still a line that you can't really adjust. I am going to make adjustments in terms of the top 6. I'm going to move Cashman to the top 6, Peterson down just for a small change. Dunham is going to stay in the lineup. Moloch is a sniper, right? Yeah, he is. 84 offensive awareness. I was thinking about maybe putting in somebody else like Lambert. But Lambert doesn't have as good offensive awareness. Maybe I'll move Lambert. Maybe I'll move Delisle into the top 6 as well. Move Hennessy down. Just kind of change things up a little tiny bit. And then from a defensive standpoint, I'm going to move Norena to that top pairing just to maybe get some more offense from that top pairing. Give him more ice time, basically. And then the rest of this gets stayed the same, I think. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, Gianna literally has a 921 save percentage, so I've had no problems with Gianta's playoff performance so far. But the fact that our team has gone scoreless in 2 games is very not good. We should maybe address our power play. Let's actually go to that. Our power play has been a bit inconsistent at times in this playoffs, but trying to think of what we could do to maybe get it to assimilate a little bit better here. Marina Kim. I like that first unit. That second unit, though, I don't know if we want to have Tulipov on that line or not. Trying to think of who else I would put there. Maybe Hunwick could get some power play time. Let's just put Hunwick on there just for something to try and change things up offensively. Because the fact that we have not scored a single goal is very confusing. Like, usually this top line doesn't go that long without scoring a single goal. Yeah, I mean, they haven't been negative either. It's not like they've been bad in terms of performance, these two guys, or this entire top line, but like Kolar's was on a good little run after last round against Chicago. Leads our team in points. Ristolainen and Stowitz have been kind of bad as of late. Ristolainen's only got 2 assists in his last 6 games. It is maybe because he's getting older. And then Stowitz, obviously, who is the old man of the bunch, hasn't had a point since that last game against Chicago. He had a goal in that game. But yeah, he's also only got 1 goal in his last 6 games. So we need Stowitz to get out of his funk and Ristolainen to get out of their funk. Kolar's has been more better than the 2 of these guys. So I don't know if there's any line adjustments I can make with these 2 guys, really. I don't really want to demote Stowitz to a second line. And I don't want to demote Ristolainen, of course. So I think we got to just keep those guys the same. I could maybe just swap Stowitz and Kolar's on their wings just for fun. Just to see if that changes anything, because then they're on their offsides. Maybe they can get more 1-Ts off. We'll try that just for fun. But I do need that top line to score more goals, because like I said, those 2 guys especially have been too quiet. And we need them to produce if we want to have a chance to get to that Stanley Cup Finals. So we're still in this series, but we got to find a way to win this first game in Calgary. If we do not win this first game, we'd have to pull off a reverse sweep, which I don't think will happen. But I mean, it could possibly happen. We've seen reverse sweeps before, so Anyways, game number 3. We have not scored a single goal to start the series. Do we have a response in game 3 to potentially get ourselves back into it? Let's get ourselves at least our first goal of the series here in this game. First period, game 3. There we go. There's the offense I've been looking for. And of course, one of them is the guy we called on, Ristolainen. Like I said, he hasn't been doing much as of late. Does pick up a goal in the first period. And Rick Kim also has a goal. So that's a good period. It's still 2 goals in a total of, I guess, now 7 periods, which is not good. But at the same time, obviously, we are hopefully going to have a good offensive game here and hopefully next game as well. So shots are 11-8 in favor of us. 2-0 lead. Can we hold on to this lead in the second period? Get some more insurance to make it safer for the third. Second period. Oh boy, the Flames answer back with 2 unanswered goals. That's kind of the worst case scenario. Gianta allows a goal from Tyrell and Obergauer. Shots are 28-19 in favor of us, yet it's a tie game. We're outplaying them every single game in terms of shots, but it just seems like we can't be consistent enough. Like, we've had only 1 period of this entire series so far through 8 periods where we've scored goals. Because that second period, obviously, we didn't score a single goal. So I don't know how our team is doing that, but they are. Those 2 goals were also only 7 seconds apart, so I don't really know how we were playing that bad defensively in that stretch, but that's not ideal. Well, we need to have a big third period here and find a way to win this game. Even if it's only by 1 goal, we need to find a way to win it, because if we fall down 3-0, the chances of us coming back are probably slim to none. However, since we're not playing good offensively right now, maybe our offense will pick it up in the next game, but we need to find a way to win this game. So let's see what happens. Third period here in Calgary. Let's see if we can get ourselves that lead back, because that's not good that we blew the lead. There we go. Rick Kim on the power play beats Reed. So I guess Reed's in net, which is kind of surprising. Swift answers back for the Flames. That's not good. Come on, guys. Let's respond. Yes, let's go. Drew Bell. 4-3 game. It's been a bit of a back and forth game, this one. We're already over 40 shots in this game, and we are going to barely beat them 4-3. So that's kind of our bread and butter, those type of games, those close ones where we win by like a goal, because we had a lot of those against Chicago, and we outshot them 46-30. We only win by 1 goal, but Drew Bell continues to play pretty well, because I think he played good against the Blackhawks too, if I remember right. But there's a big victory on the road to hopefully give ourselves a chance to come back in this series. So Kim from Hennessy and Hunwick. Then we had Ristolainen from Kohlers and Staubitz, so that top line getting on the board. Then we had Kim from Ristolainen and Kohlers, and Bell from Staubitz and Ristolainen. So Ristolainen and Staubitz both, like I said, were quiet, and they came through with a big victory here. So I like to see that. Let's actually take a look at those stats. Yeah, 3 points for Ristolainen. Kohlers had 2 points, and then obviously Kim and Staubitz also had 2 points. So good stuff from our top 6. Obviously, hopefully they do more of that going forward, because if we win the next game, then it might be the home ice trend all the way till game 7, which is going to be playing into our factor in that sense if that happens. So Ristolainen first star, 3 points. Kim the second star, 2 goals. And Bell the third star with that game-winning goal and 4 hits. So we head to a game 4 scenario where obviously we could tie the series up. I really hope it is the home ice trend, basically based on that, because we played pretty bad in the first 2 games. And in this game, we barely beat them. If we could beat them here, then it's back to best of 3. So I think we got to keep the team the same. It wasn't the best textbook third game, but the fact that we were able to respond every time after they scored is good. I don't like that we gave up 2 goals in that second period, but I think I'm going to keep the team the same for this next game, just because we won, obviously. So this is a pretty important game for both teams. Obviously, if Calgary wins this, they go up 3-1. If we find a way to win it, it's back to square one, and it becomes a best of 3. So let's see what happens. Game number 4, still in Calgary. Can we keep the momentum rolling after a solid victory on the road? First period, game 4. 1-0 Flames. Oh boy, another scoreless period for our team, which is not good, and we're actually being outshot for a change, which is also not good. So we've had so many scoreless periods in this playoff so far. I believe that's like a total of probably like almost like 3 combined games, something like that at least, which is not good at all. But Obergauer scores on Gianta early. Afterwards, it seems like he was pretty good and locked in, but our team is trailing after 1, which is not a good sign compared to like the last game, because last game we were able to score 2 goals in the first period, but this period not so much. So it's kind of similar to game 1 and 2 where we didn't score any goals in them, which is not a good sign. So do we have a response in the second period? Because if we don't, we are definitely playing with fire a little bit, and maybe a little bit too much fire in like the Calgary Flames in that sense. But let's see what happens in the second period, see if we could get a response from our team. Second period, 2-1 us. Okay, that's a good period again. So we are being a little bit sporadic with our goal scoring, but we're finding ways to score goals now. Doig scores to tie it up early on, and 11 seconds left. Ristolainen gives us the lead. So shout out to our top line who has come alive a little bit here, which is nice to see. I did call him out. We moved some guys to opposite wings, and it maybe has helped out a little bit. Shots are 22-19 in favor of the Flames, but we're up by a goal. Still not a crazy offensive effort from our team, but we are up by that goal. Just got to find a way to get some insurance and lock down this third. So let's see what happens. Third period. Come on, boys. Let's get some insurance to lock this game down, and Almquist ties it up. Not great, and Obergauer gives them the lead literally less than 20 seconds later. Oh, boy. A little bit of a defensive lapse. Power play for us. We do answer back in. It's the captain, Staubitz. Let's go, Staubitz. Good to see you on the board, my man. Good to see you on the board. So our top six has come alive quite a bit in the last 2 games, which is nice. And we are going to be going to an overtime scenario, and this is a huge, huge overtime. Like I said, if the Flames win this, we have to win 3 straight games. If we win this, it's a best of 3. So we got to hope that the coach sends out the right guys in overtime. So shots are even, goals are even, 31-31, 3-3 going into the overtime scenario. I honestly don't know who's going to win it at this point. It's been a bit of back and forth. Who wants to be the hero for us on our team? If our top line's been getting better, I feel like it's got to be a guy on the top line, but it could be randomly a guy in the bottom 6, and I wouldn't be surprised. So I don't honestly know who I want to call upon. Maybe I'll just throw out a random name like Ackerstrom or something like that, but let's see what happens in overtime. See if we can find a way to get this series tied back up and take both games in Calgary. Come on, boys. Let's get that winner. Let's get that winner. Oh, and the Flames win in overtime early on, and it's Malcolm Spence, who's a 4th-line guy for them. God damn it. And we are now down 3-1. We got to win 3 straight games against the Flames. That's not good. Well, that's going to be definitely tough to come back from. Probably one of our toughest comebacks of all time if we could get back into this, but not consistent enough with the offense, and we let them get back into it multiple times. Not good. So Doig from Peterson and Hennessy. We had Ristolainen from Kohlers and Tulipov in, and Staubitz from Hunwick and Ristolainen. But unfortunately, Malcolm Spence from Bogosian in Rennes. So shout out to Bogosian. He picks up an assist on the goal that pushes us to the brink. Not great. At least it feels okay that we won a Stanley Cup a few years ago, but it does suck if we can't get back to that finals again this year, considering our coach thinks we could get to the finals. So Ristolainen 3rd star, Bishar 2nd star, Obergauer 1st star of the game. So, like I said, our offense has been a bit too sporadic, and that's been our major problem here so far. We've allowed them to score 4 goals in 2 games as well, so it's not like they've been outscoring us that badly, but to lose that one, if we would have won that one, like I said, it would have been back to square one, but now we got to win 3 straight, which is going to be absolutely tough. So what do we want to do in terms of our lineup? I'm trying to think of anything we could do to maybe make this simulate better. Let's go with Staubitz to the back to the right side. I am going to do some not center management. I'm going to get Peterson back up. Cashman can go back down. We'll leave Delisle still in the top 6. Dunham and Doig could change positions just for fun. And aside from that, I think that might be okay. Actually, maybe I'll try something else. I'll try Malak into the 3rd line. As Malak's a sniper, Dunham and Doig are more defensively minded guys. And in our defensive core, hasn't been a major issue. Norena's been pretty bad, actually, to be honest. Pretty bad this playoff run. He's a -6. He's got 4 assists, which is kind of low for an offensive defenseman. But yeah, he's been a -6, which is not good. I'm going to lower his ice time even though he's an offensive defenseman. I'm going to also move Hunwick off that top 6 pairing, maybe. Yeah, we'll play Ackerstrom and Norena together, I guess. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, we'll do something like that. And then Hunwick could come all the way up to the top pairing with Bell. And then Lee could play with Tulipov. Gianna, like I said, has been pretty good in this playoffs. I don't think we need to turn to Harakala. I think the rest of this should be okay. I just don't know if that's going to make us better offensively. And I don't really have anybody I would call up from the AHL for this playoff run, so I think we honestly got to go with this. We honestly got to go with this and hope that this team can somehow find a way to win 3 straight games. That top line is going to be crucial if we want to get back into it. Because so far, Kohlers is on 17 points, so he's over point per game. Ristolo is on 16 points in 16 games. And then we have Staubitz, who is on 14 points. So Staubitz is actually under point per game, which is a bit concerning. But I do understand that he's an older guy and he's going to start dropping off sooner rather than later. So I think, I was debating about taking Staubitz off that top line, but Rick Kim's only got 5 goals and no assists or anything, so he has been pretty quiet. I'm going to move Staubitz to the second line for 1 game at least, just to try and things out with a different top line, just to kind of split up the offense maybe a bit. So even though Staubitz has been good, I am going to give Rick Kim a chance on the top line to try and get him going a bit more. Because if Rick Kim can get his offense going as well, that would take a little bit of pressure off guys like Staubitz to perform a bit. So, anyways, game number 5 we got to head to. Looking to stay alive and force a game 6. And then hopefully if we force a game 6, after game 6 we force a game 7 somehow. I don't even know. But Columbus is up 3-1 on Carolina. So maybe one of these teams can come back from a 3-1 deficit. Or maybe it's just going to be a Calgary and Columbus Stanley Cup Finals, which would be, like I said, the Johnny Gaudreau Bowl, which is interesting. So, yeah, I think we're going to just hop right into this. I think that's going to be our line adjustments, and I hope that this team finds a way to win. So, real-time simulation, looking to stay alive and get it to a Game 6. Let's go, Aliens. Let's go, Aliens. They open the scoring early on. That's not a good start for Gianta. Tyrell with the goal. Not good that we give up goals in the first period, too. Power play for us, we do not score. Penalty kill, nicely done, penalty killers. Power play for us again, we do not score. Wasted power play opportunities does give us maybe a bit of momentum, who knows. Final few minutes of this first, and we're going to be trailing 1-0 after the first period like we've done so many times. Every single loss of the series against the Flames so far, we've been trailing 1-0 after the first period, so I wouldn't be surprised if we lose this game based on how this game is going so far, but who knows, maybe we'll have a good second period like last game and maybe give ourselves a chance in this one, but we need a big, strong second period here. Let's see what happens in period 2. Come on, guys. Power play for us to start the second. We do not score on it. We've had like 3 power plays and not scored a single goal on them, so that's not good. Maybe I should have made more power play adjustments. Penalty kill, Malak scores a goal right afterwards. Not even a power play goal or a shorthanded goal. But Renz answers back for the Flames, of course. Well, that's not good that they managed to respond right away, and we're going to be going down 2-1 going into the third, despite the shots being pretty even, 23-21. We're down to potentially our final 20 minutes of the season. I thought we would get back to the Cup Finals again this year, but it seems like Calgary is definitely that kind of cheese team. It isn't what Saturn Taco mentioned about beating them in 7 games or getting swept. It's probably going to be 5 games, it seems like, that we're going to get knocked out in. Unless we have a really strong third period here, which is doable. But if we find a way to win this third period, are we going to find a way to keep winning games going forward? Or are we just going to fall back to our old tricks in the next game if we do get there? So let's get to this third period. See if we can stay alive somehow. We need to find a way to score early. And we need to find a way to stay out of the box and be disciplined. Find ways to score on our power play. But third period underway. Come on, guys. Oh, Bishar makes it 3-1. That's probably it at this stage. Unless we have an answer right back. Which we do not. Well, yep. Koshrain scores 4-1. Unfortunately, we're going to be getting knocked out here in the conference finals. I thought this year maybe we had a chance to get to the Cup Finals. But the Calgary Flames are going to cheese us in this conference finals. And unfortunately, we're once again packing our bags in this conference finals. And we've only been to that one Stanley Cup Finals, I believe, and we won it. So that kind of blows, man. That kind of blows. Our offense just could not do anything against the Flames. And that was the one worry, was that goaltender. And yeah, he's definitely was the difference in this series. So Malak with the only goal and was unassisted too. But yeah, we just could not find a ways to contain them. They didn't score that much goals per game, like 3 to 4 goals per game, which is solid. So I'm definitely not putting us on Gianta, but I definitely would put on our offense for not finding ways to score on the power play and all that. Like, our numbers definitely dropped off a lot. Jorgensen was a star in almost every single game as well, so That's unfortunate. But Bogosian's getting the chance at the Stanley Cup, which I can't complain about too much. Because he didn't win one with us, I'm pretty sure. It would be nice to see Bogosian win the Stanley Cup. So let's hope Calgary goes on to win the Stanley Cup, so then we could say we lost to the best team. But also Bogosian gets a chance at that Stanley Cup. So very poor for third round for our team. Let's take a look at our player stats now, even though nobody really picked up any offense. We do have some interesting decisions to make this offseason in terms of our lineup going forward, but let's take a look at some stats here. So in terms of our centers, Ristolainen was pretty good. He was quiet a little bit at times, but 16 points, 17 games. I probably wanted more out of guys like Peterson and Cashman. Maybe especially Cashman, actually. He was minus 10 in 17 games. And yeah, obviously last year a lot better in the playoffs. Year before that even better. But if we go like game log, he was terrible in that round versus Calgary. That line really destroyed us. Maybe I should have made more adjustments, but Cashman was literally a minus 9 in that round. So, yikes. That's pretty bad for a two-way forward, being a minus 9. So, shout out to Cashman, but that's pretty bad. And then Rick Kim was also probably pretty bad in the plus-minus department, I guess, game log-wise. Yeah, it seems like all those guys that were struggling were actually struggling defensively too, because he was also a minus 9 in the series. So it's these type of guys, not really like the top line Ristolainen. It's just Cashman, Kim, and such. Maybe it's because we didn't score a lot of goals as well that our plus minus was that bad. I honestly don't know. Healy on 5 points is okay for his ice time. Left wing side of things, Kolar's on 17, Delisle on 5. He was also minus 5. Yeah, I think maybe just our lack of offense made a big factor in our plus minus, but top line did most of the work again. Like I said, Staubitz was under point per game, which is unfortunate, but Hennessy, his time here is probably done. He's probably heading to free agency this offseason, and in a bigger chance for Dunham next season based on that, which is interesting. From a defensive standpoint, Bell on 9 points. We might have also been a bit too aggressive based on our penalty minutes from the defense. Like, Bell had 17 PIMs, Humwick had 12, Tulipov had 17, Narena didn't take a penalty, but Ackerstrom had 13. So, a bit aggressive on defense. A bit. But that's alright, I guess. Goaltending, Gianna was good, 9-15. I had no problems with him for the most part. But yeah, definitely, I'd say the major problem with us in that playoff run was that a lot of these guys didn't perform super good offensively in the bottom 6, and they also had really bad plus-minus. I'd say our top line was the only thing that really showed up offensively, and then also guys like Lieber good defensively, and of course our goaltending was solid. So there was some positives, but definitely came crashing down. Because if we go to like Calgary stats now, Jorgensen's now on a 934. That's crazy. Very tough player to play against. So Jorgensen seems like a very good goaltender in the playoffs. And then their offense started to click a little bit more, I think. But yeah, Bogosian's on 10 points in 18 games despite getting not a lot of ice time. Like, he's only averaging 924 a game. So it would be nice to see Jameson Bogosian get that Stanley Cup win for the Calgary Flames potentially. So let's hope that that happens for them. I would be really happy for him. Because I'm pretty sure he wasn't on our cup winning team, right? Let me just double check. I don't think he was on the cup winning team. I'm pretty sure he was already gone by then. Like, it was the year after we let him go that we won the cup or some shit. Yeah, he's never won a Stanley Cup. So let's hope that Bogosian gets himself a Stanley Cup win. Let's hope that he gets it done. All right, actually, I did want to take a look at our team stats after that round as well, just to see what dropped off and all that, because I know that we dropped off definitely in goals for per game. But basically, yeah, our offense dropped down to 2.65 goals for per game. Our goals against was still good at 2.53, but obviously the offense was a major problem, especially in the first few games. 18.9% on the power play, so our power play also dripped off a little bit. Our penalty kill is still not that bad, 89.8. It's actually pretty good. But, yeah, just could not find a ways to win consistently. We were actually below 500 on home ice as well in the playoffs, which is kind of strange. All right, so the question now is who's going to win the Stanley Cup between Calgary and it's either Carolina or Columbus. We'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully Bogosian gets that Stanley Cup ring because that'd be nice. Because then we could be actually a little bit happy. And it will be the Calgary Flames, so Bogosian is a Stanley Cup champion. At least I could be happy about that. It does suck that obviously we didn't win the Stanley Cup and we lost to the best team. But Jamison Bogosian gets himself a ring, beating the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it was the Johnny Gaudreau Bowl in the Cup Finals, and I can't complain about that either. The Stanley Cup game-winning goal is going to be technically Obergauer. 4-goal first period for the Flames in that one. It would have been nice if I could see the celebration with Bogosian and such, but Bogosian getting his name on the Stanley Cup is pretty damn solid. Barely got any ice time in that last game as well, but does get himself a cup win. Wow, let's go. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. Definitely. 5 games it took. So after they beat us in 5 games, they managed to take out Columbus in 5 games. So I feel like Jorgensen could be a Conn Smythe candidate based on his numbers. Like, the only series that they went to 7 games with is the Anaheim Ducks. Huh. All right. Let's go to... Let me actually take a look at the Flames player stats from that cup win. Kind of curious on Bogosian's final numbers, potentially. So, Bishara had 26 points. There's a chance that he's probably got the Conn Smythe, but I think they should give it to the goaltender, potentially. Bogosian had 11 points, so after a round against us, he barely picked up any points. But shout out to Jamison Bogosian on a Stanley Cup win. Shout out to all these other guys, even though none of them played for us. And then, yeah, Jorgensen had a 935. If this guy does not get the Conn Smythe, I'd be surprised. 5 shutouts in the playoffs as well. So the Flames, great defensive structure in front of this guy too. If Jorgensen doesn't win it, I will be shocked. Because he should definitely get it over Bishara, in my opinion. Because Bishara really didn't do that much against us, I feel like. But not too sure on that. Alright, let's go to the awards, see what we got here. So Calgary winning the Stanley Cup. It was a few years ago that we won the Stanley Cup. We've been to back-to-back conference finals after the Cup win, which is nice. But it does suck that we didn't win a Stanley Cup this year. And then in terms of the President's Trophy, went to the Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, we knocked them out in the second round. And then, as we mentioned, it's the Calgary and Columbus Stanley Cup Finals, which is pretty damn cool in my opinion. In terms of individual awards, Robertson for Toronto, the Art Ross Trophy winner. Last year, obviously, was Ristolainen. He also wins the Hart. Bissonnette for Winnipeg wins the Norris, his first of his career, I think. Robertson, the Lady Byng. Gordon, the Calder for Carolina. Also almost got Carolina to a Stanley Cup Finals, so this guy must have had a good rookie season. And then in terms of the next awards, the Conn Smythe went to Bishar, so that's kind of dumb. I don't think that should happen. I think it definitely should have went to the goalie. Considering he had over a 930 save percentage and 5 shutouts, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But they do give it to the forward in Bishar, so there's that. Gazanov wins another Vezina Trophy. This guy's been insane. I don't think I've seen an AI goaltender win 3 Vezinas. But he's won 3 Vezinas in the last 4 years. So that's interesting. Auld wins the Jennings, despite losing to us in the playoffs. Mason, the Masterton. For the New York Rangers. Dallas's coach to Jack Adams. Ristolainen does win another Selke. So, hey, that's at least an award for our team. Cool. Robertson, the Lindsay. And Bjorkstrand, the Maurice Richard. So, only 1 award for our team. Any AHL awards out of curiosity? No AHL awards. Okay, that's fine. But another Selke trophy for Ristolainen. So I think he's up to like 6 now, if I'm not mistaken. So this guy's definitely one of the best two-way forwards in my channel's history. Actually, he's a power forward still. That's kind of weird. Yeah, his trophy cabinet is pretty insane at this point in time. As you can see now, 6 Selke trophies. And then he also has all those other major awards. So, yeah, definitely Ristolainen and Stubbits are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers in this series for sure, I think. Alright, so now that that is all done, let's simulate to the draft lottery, all that stuff, and wrap up the season. But it definitely comes to an end a little bit earlier than I would have liked. But at the same time, to see Bogosian get a Stanley Cup, I think that's something I could definitely be happy about. I'm just curious if he's going to end up retiring soon because of the fact that he's already 33 and he's kind of dropping off a bit. So New York Rangers end up winning the draft lottery. Ottawa the 2nd pick, Buffalo 3rd, San Jose 4th, and Colorado number 5. Alright. I don't really care too much on that. I'm curious how what the draft class is going to look like, really. Retired players, let's see what we got. Okay, any interesting names? We definitely got to take a look through this a little bit more in depth now because there could be former players here, so we definitely will look through this all the way to the bottom. But Ridley Gregg's the best center to retire. Is there any former picks of ours? Out of curiosity. Guys that were here for like a tiny little bit. Because last year there was some that I missed out on. Because see, like, you already have generated guys like Clinton Andrews retiring, so there is a chance that we might see some former guys hang them up. So Bogosian did not retire. No centers used to play for us. Left wingers Alexis Lafreniere retires. Interesting. Or Alexis Lafreniere, I guess I should say. Aside from that, any former players? Nobody on the left wing side of things. From a right wing perspective, any former guys? No. Oh no, is Zetterberg already retired? Damn. Okay, that's a pretty surprising one. We literally just let go of Zetterberg not too long ago because he was taking up too much filler space in the AHL. But after 1 year, or 2 years actually, removed from the AHL, he's already retired. So I'm kind of surprised he retired at 31. But shout out to Thomas Zetterberg. 48 points in 161 games. Wow. He did also play a little bit in the playoffs that 1 year. Where he had 5 goals in 17 games. Was he on the Stanley Cup team? No, he was not considered on the Stanley Cup team. Huh. But shout out to Zetterberg. An interesting player. I don't know if he would have had a better career if he developed easier or what, but he didn't really develop to us. Was a 7th round pick, though, but he did get 48 points in 161 games, which is pretty solid for a guy that's drafted that late. So, kind of surprised, like I said, that he retired at 31, but best of luck to him. Defensively, any former defenders? Yes, there is. Oh my goodness, a 34-year-old, and I completely forgot about this guy for some weird reason. Matt Trevelyan retires, former 2nd rounder of ours in the first draft we had. That's kind of insane. I don't even know how we're already at this stage where these guys are retiring, but Trevelyan retires a little bit early. Hadn't played since 2032, so he didn't get assigned to an HL deal anywhere else. He was a career-long Albuquerque alien with 655 games, 174 points, minus 784. He was only coming into the later stages of us being good. But, wow. What a career. Minus 230 in that first season. That's crazy. Good memories. Good memories. And he did get to play 7 playoff games in his last year, and he was actually plussing them. So, he actually got to play playoff games, and that's pretty nice to see. So, shout out to Trevelyan. 71 overall at the end of it. And he did win the Bill Masterton. That's right. I completely forgot about that in 2027 as well. So, I'm kind of glad that they show the awards on here now because I would not have remembered that he won a Masterton. So, shout out to Trevelyan. Best of luck to him in retirement. It'd be nice if those guys became coaches, but it doesn't happen that often. And there is another former player, Spike Parks. Oh my goodness. 34 years old as well. Former 3rd round pick in 2024. So, another guy from that first year draft. Hangs them up. Spike Parks, 69th overall selection. He did not play a long time here. Like 486 games is pretty solid, but he was, I feel like, a fringe defenseman at best. But he was definitely part of the early years, as you can see with the plus-minus department. Pretty damn insane. I don't even know if he got to play. Oh my goodness. I don't even know if he got to play any playoff games with us. I don't think he did. Only in the AHL, I guess, a little bit, but 78 points is not bad. 25 goals isn't too bad either. He was a defensive defenseman too, which is kind of strange, but wow. And yeah, he also won 3 Mastertons. I thought it was going to be another Masterton winner. 2027-28 was the last year he won it, so he would have won it. Then Trevelyan won it, I think, 1 year. Actually, wait. Most recent, yeah, I think he probably won 2 in a row, and then Trevelyan won it in 2027. And then he won it one more time in 27-28. But shout out to those 2 guys. Absolute legends. They're definitely not Channel Hall of Famers, but they're definitely guys that if you're an OG of the series, you'll definitely remember them. So that's pretty sick. Any other former guys that I forgot about? Any former guys I forgot about? I don't think so, probably, right? Nope, nobody else on defense. What about goalies? Ryan Tamlin, the Tower, has retired. Well, that's a pretty big one. He retires with a 119-1 record. He did pick up 1 shutout, which is nice to see. An 848 save percentage and a 6.88 goals against average. But shout out to the Tower. Hey, Feldsberg's actually retired too. That's interesting to see him. Latvian legend. But yeah, shout out to Ryan Tamlin. We got always a shout out to Tower. He was the 7th round pick in our first draft as well. So 3 guys, all from the same draft class, all decided to retire at the same time. Tamlin hadn't played in over a decade. because he played one AHL season and he obviously played the 4 NHL years with us as well. Pretty damn insane. I don't remember if he was the first goalie to get a shutout in our franchise's history. I feel like he wasn't. I think it might have been Shipley, who was retirement last year, but we forgot to take a look at his stats. But yeah, shout out to Tamlin and all those other guys. And yeah, it's kind of funny just seeing those guys retire. Man. So the 2024 draft class, a lot of those guys are gone, which is kind of scary because that means obviously Staubitz is not too far from that. But coach retirements, we do lose Wisnowski, who's probably an AHL coach, or no, an assistant coach in our NHL team or something like that, maybe a goalie coach. So we do need to find ourselves a new coach there. We did not lose anybody in the minors. All right. Terms of draft interviews, I'm not going to do draft interviews. I'm just going to take a look at the draft class after we look at contracts and stuff. So let's take a look first at the contracts. We'll take a look at the progress reports. And actually, let's take a look at the progress reports first. And then we'll take a look, obviously, at the draft class. But are we getting any drop-off from any of your guys on our team? We are getting some growth from Dunham, which is nice. Like I said, he's easily going to be a replacement probably for Hennessy. There's a good chance Hennessy's gone at the end of this year. So, and then Hunwick is listed now as a top 4 defenseman. There's a chance that we might have to give less ice time to some people, which is interesting. But yeah, good to see Hunwick getting some growth. He's also got statistical drop-off, but his natural growth is good, so I'll definitely take that. Ristolainen starting to drop off a bit. That's interesting. I think he was an exact franchise at one time, so he might have dropped to exact elite. His natural growth is dropping off a cliff, but he does have that statistical growth, which is helping a bit. But there's a chance Ristolainen might be down to like a 91 to start next season. Oh boy. Is his faceoff still 99 at least? Yeah, they are. Okay, good. So Ristolainen can still definitely win more Selkies, but he might be a retirement by age 36, potentially. And then Staubitz, any drop off from him? A little bit in his puck control, which is not a surprise. He's a bit of a bigger guy. Aside from that, he's on statistical growth. So those guys could end up being worse than they look, which is a bit scary. Norena, lots of statistical growth, no drop-off, really. Okay. Doesn't seem like we're getting too bad in terms of the drop-off department. Hutton, who was in the AHL last year, is up to an 80 overall. So, Ricard Hutton will probably be joining the defensive core next season. He's actually listed as a top 4 as well, so we kind of need to make some decisions with the defense. We'll definitely look at that in a bit, but there is definitely some decisions of maybe letting go some of the guys on the defensive side of things, or playing some in the minors, basically. Like, Lee's a pending free agent. There's a good chance he's gone, I'd say. I think he's a pending free agent, at least. In the system, any crazy growth? Doughty's up to a 61. Actually, let's start by overall. Mathers should probably be our backup next season, so I'd probably let go of Harakala, potentially. Aside from that, I mean, DeVoe's up to a 74 or 25. Looks like we're not still getting a ton of growth from guys in the system. Malkin's getting closer to the NHL. Same with Kopitz. I mean, there is some growth, but it seems like definitely it's still a little bit slower, which is not ideal. This low 6 is up to a 72 at 20. That's actually pretty damn good for an unsigned prospect. So Bryant Stillman might actually play in our AHL team next year because he's actually a legit good overall. So that's interesting. All right, so that is that. Let's take a look at the contract situation. So this is what I'm referring to when I say we have a little bit of a logjam on defense first and foremost. So, because technically right here we have 7 defensemen, and Ackerston probably should be more of a 7th D-man. There's probably a good chance I let go of Lee because he's a pending UFA. Norena needs a contract extension, so obviously we'll try and give him that this offseason. That's a pretty important one to get back. But yeah, Hutton and Hunwick are both listed as top 4s. Tulipov's a top 4. Bell's a top 4. Norena's a top 4. So, yeah, we probably have to let go of Lee. And then Mahalik's still an RFA that's pending. We don't necessarily need to qualify Mahalik, but I probably would prefer to bring him back just in case. So, a little bit of a logjam on defense, but let's go to the all-expiring page. I want to see this so we can see who we have to re-sign. So, in terms of these guys, you can see Hennessy, pending UFA. It says that I gave him a contract extension. I didn't. But Hennessy's probably gone. Norena's a pending UFA. Like I said, I would love to hold on to Norena until he retires. He is trying to get paid a good chunk of money, though. At least right now. I don't know about when we get to the re-sign stage, but he might take up a lot of the cap we have left. And Doig's an RFA at least, so we could easily bring him back. Same with Delisle. Heatley's a pending UFA. We probably should try and hold on to some of those fourth liners, but we don't need to necessarily. Lee's a pending UFA. I think he's gone for sure. Lambert's pending UFA. He doesn't need to come back, but he could be still a depth forward. Same with Malak. Like, it's not a crazy amount of people that are pending free agents, but the one that I do want to bring back for sure if we can is Norena, just because I know that he helps our offense a lot from the back end. And then we don't have an offensive defenseman if we lose him too, so... And then Harakal is a pending RFA, but like I said, I probably debate about letting him walk. He was a good backup, but we do have Mathers in the system. Maybe I could run both of them potentially again. Because Malkin could be the starter in the AHL. If Malkin's the starter in the AHL and Langwell's the backup, then maybe Mathers should be the backup in the NHL. Yeah, that's a bit of a decision. Alright, so there's the contract situation. I will now look at the draft class. So obviously we're not going to have a super good pick this year. We have 31. So I'm not too sure if we're going to get anything good here. But let's take a look at what this class looks like. And then you guys could let me know if there's anybody you would draft with the selection. So number 31, let's just take a look at what's supposed to go around that point first. And then we'll take a look at just by sorting in terms of potential. But I don't think we're going to get anything super crazy. There is a lowly, maybe defenseman here that could go earlier though. Ooh. Okay, Trevor Farrell looks pretty good. 2 years out, maybe low lead. I'll definitely pin him. I don't know if we'll be able to get him because the scout ranks him at 27. Our central scouting has him at 31, though. So he could go earlier or right around our selection. So he's definitely an option for defensive help at least. Anybody else that I could see around this point? Carlotti as a right demon. We do need more right defensemen. Ooh, he actually looks really good, and he might be NHL ready. He's probably going to be a top 4, my guess, but I think Carlotti's got to be a selection maybe instead. The only thing is we do have a logjam on defense, but we do need more right defenders than left. The good thing is these defenders are both AHL eligible as well, though, so if we go with one of them, they can play in the AHL if we don't want to rush them. But I think since Carlotti's a right demon, I would probably prefer him over Forelli. What else we got here? Tanaka is a defenseman. Guillermo Tanaka, probably basic top 4. Basic top 6 with that guy. Aiden Rowley's a gem. Probably a normal top 6 at 65 overall or so. Yeah, I'd probably prefer that right D-man as our first selection. I think that's got to be a no-brainer at this point. Just because the other guy might go earlier too anyways. I think we got to go with that right defenseman potentially. Alright, so there's that. Let's sort by potential. See if there's any crazy potential guys we could pin for later rounds. There is a goaltender, Lawrence Fernandez. He is 5 years out, which means you'd only have 3 years left of this franchise mode by the end of it. I don't think we really need goalies that much, because we do have Malkin still in the system. So I probably wouldn't even pin this guy, but we could always draft a goalie if you guys want. Aside from that, no other guaranteed medium elite players, I don't think. Let's just take a look at some of these other guys. Kohane Fair, Tanaka we already looked at. Dawes, I think I already looked at him. He doesn't look that good. I wonder if there's any low elites. Yes, there is. Okay, nice. There's a right demon as well. He's 20 years old though already, which kind of sucks. But Michael Peterman is pretty solid. So we'll pin him. He's probably going to be a lower overall, but that's okay. Or he could be a higher overall because he's 20. There's also a low elite offensive defenseman, Ryder McLeod. Ooh. Okay, that's definitely something I'd definitely take. I mean, he's probably not going to make it before the series ends. He could, but I think this is going to be a draft where we grab ourselves some good right demon. Because Peterman should be okay. McLeod should be okay. We could draft a right-handed defenseman in the first round. There's also a low elite sniper listed as a gem in Roman Krejcik. Wow. Okay, we might honestly just go completely off the board with a lot of our selections. Just because a lot of these low elites look like they could be decent. Topi Vico, What about Scuderi? I'm not too sure. Those guys could be low elites as well, but this guy's a gem, so he's got to be a low elite, right? Pagaduan, potential. Let's just pin him since he's a gem. Alright, let me just sort this by pin for a second. So, I think what we're going to do is we're going to draft with our first selection, probably Carlotti. I probably prefer him because he's a right defenseman. Second round, I honestly don't know. We might just go off the board and start grabbing all these low leads because at this point, we don't really care too much about overall rating. We just want these potential guys, I guess. And I don't necessarily need to draft what's best available. Like, I'd prefer low leads over top six forwards any day. So after Karolotti, probably the next round, we could easily just go for somebody like Peterman, who's probably a higher overall as a 20-year-old. We could go for guys that are listed as gems like Krejcik. We could go for McLeod. We could potentially grab like all four of those guys if we draft them early enough. So we might honestly do that. Seems like it's a good class for right demon too, which is nice. So it would give us a little bit more logjam on the defensive side of things, but also gives us more help on that right side because I know that right side's a bit on the weaker end of things. So might not be a bad idea. Is there any other gems other than the ones we pinned? Yes, there is. Holy crap. Okay. A lot of gems in this year's draft. This guy's a low 6, so he's not that great. Hickett's probably could be a low lead. No guarantees, though. But there seems to be a lot of gems in this draft class. There's also a bust name. Is it Jack Eichel? No, John Eichel. So I guess Jack Eichel had a kid in Denmark or something like that, and he's labeled as a bust, which is kind of funny. Huh. All right. Actually, that's not even Denmark. That's friggin' Norway. Why did I even say Denmark? Goddamn. All right, so I think that's probably it. What does the scouts actually recommend us draft out of curiosity? Just nothing really. Okay, what about our depth chart? I do want to take a look at this. So we are very good offensively, according to this still. Defense is actually pretty strong, which is surprising. We do have a logjam on defensive prospects too, so we can start letting go of so many guys in the AHL probably. Goaltending is A as well, so we don't really have a set weakness on this team. Maybe defensive prospects, considering it says defensive prospects is a weakness, and offensive prospects are a weakness. So if we could target a few of those, at least it would be good. But this team should be still competitive easily next season, and we should have more good defensive prospects, which is also exciting. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the draft and off season. We'll obviously add ourselves some more good prospects in. That way we just stay competitive for these last 8 seasons or so. But it does suck to see a lot of former players starting to retire. It's interesting seeing Bogosian win a Stanley Cup this season, but the series is kind of winding down near the end of it, but it will be interesting to see what these guys retire with in terms of awards and all that, because like I know Staubitz is definitely one of the best players I've ever had. Ristolainen as well. Like those two guys, probably the best dynamic duo we've had. I mean, Kolar's kind of goes under the radar a bit. Maybe he's a Hall of Famer at some point too, but I definitely think we have a lot of legends in the series, and it's going to be interesting to see how these guys' careers wrap up, if they could get another Stanley Cup, if they could get more individual hardware, that type of thing. So I think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.